What is up, everybody out there in podcast land? It is time for yet another great, glorious, politically incorrect episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0. And guess who is back with me this week?
That's right, the Conquistador is back, baby. Oh, I missed last week, and damn, do we have some rants ready for you this week. Oh.
Back to business. It's only rock and roll, but we like it. All right, we're going to start off with baseball this week here on July the 17th, dropping tomorrow morning, July the 18th.
And of course, you know that is the sultry tones of the maestro.
I am your gracious and humble host, but I could not do this without the man to my right, of course, the Conquistador Dave Height. He is the Troy Aikman to my Joe Buck. He is the chocolate to my peanut butter. He is the man, the myth, the legend. My Pojo, my brother from another mother. Now, that's all the buttering up he's going to get, because now he's going to get mad because we're going to end up talking about how the White Sox
fucked up the draft.
Yeah, so we'll cover the draft first, and then we'll get into the All-Star Game and all the other little miscellaneous tidbits from the week. Kind of a short week, again, because of the All-Star break, so we'll give you the summary, the recap for the first, not half technically, but the All-Star break is what we call the end of the first half. So the draft, normally we don't pay a lot of attention to the MLB draft because there's so many rounds, and it's really a crapshoot unless you've got maybe the first or second pick, and even then it can be a crapshoot.
Like any draft, there's no guarantees.
Yep, so literally, we're just going to focus on the White Sox first-round pick and the Cubs first-round pick before we move on. So, yes, we'll get Dave's blood pressure up here now as we talk about the number 5 pick in the draft to the White Sox, Hagen Smith.
Left-handed pitcher out of Arkansas.
Arkansas, yep.
What the hell are you thinking? Pitching is not the major issue you've got right now. It's position players and lack of hitting.
Yeah, that was the one thing when I read ESPN's recap of the first round and how they broke down, again, our picks, the White Sox and the Cubs picks. And they said the same thing. They said the White Sox already really have kind of an overabundance of left-handed arms.
We've got enough pitching.
But now the funny thing is, as you always like to bring up, where did your GM come from?
Chris Getz, former Sox player, spent time in the front office with the Kansas City Royals,
who happened to pick number 6. Now this is the part that...
This is what frosts my ass.
Yeah, Kansas City picks right after the White Sox, and they get, by all accounts, arguably the best player in the draft, Jack Caglianone. I think I got that right. That's pretty close.
That's pretty close.
Power hitting first baseman for Florida, also teasing the possibility that he could end up being a two-way player down the road.
A la Shohei Ohtani.
Yep.
You have nobody hitting for power or average on your team right now. You do not have a true first baseman. You're running Andrew Vaughn out there to play first base. He is not a first baseman. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Leave it to the idiot coming over from Kansas City who destroyed the Sox farm system, had as head of player development, did absolutely nothing to improve any part of the organization. Our inept, borderline, dementia patient owner, Reinsdorf, decides to hire Getz as his new GM and president of baseball. And the guy has done nothing but prove he's an idiot time and time again. I'm done with this bullshit.
Yeah, and again, as an outsider looking at this, even to me, this looks like a bad pick. Should have taken the kid from Florida. Even
Any day of the week, that is what should have been done.
Even if the tease about him being able to play two ways is
I
just a
don't
tease.
care about that.
He's still a power-hitting first baseman.
Yeah, which we do not have.
And the Cubs kind of took a boring pick right around. He was rated right around where they took him. Cubs at number 14 take third baseman, and they needed a third baseman. Again, it'll take a couple years, I think. This is not a slam dunk type of prospect. He will spend a couple years in the minors for sure. Cam Smith, third baseman from Florida State. So moving on to our teams, I'll go first. At the break, Cubs are 47-51. Last place, but there's a difference between last place Cubs and last place Sox.
Big time.
In that the Cubs are still holding out some hope, only 8.5 games behind first place Milwaukee. That's not how far back they are in the wild card standings. It would have been nice to see them split that doubleheader last Saturday where they got swept, split the series 2-2 with the Cardinals.
They needed to have taken 3 out of 4.
Yeah, that would have jumped them up a lot closer to a wild card spot. Now they're still in that gray area with the trade deadline just 2 weeks away.
Yep. And then you have my deplorable White Sox sitting dead last in all of Major League Baseball. 27-71. 32.5 games behind the Guardians in the division.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's no chance in hell. They are who I thought they would be.
But now, since you weren't here last week, I thought you might want to at least give props, or maybe he's your Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week, to Mr. Michael Kopech.
For having the immaculate inning, as bad as he has been, as I like to say, even a blind bird finds a worm once in a while. That is the best Kopech has looked since his Major League debut.
Yeah, that happened way back on July the 10th. Kind of maybe in the back of my mind I was saving that for you. And that is the first immaculate inning among any major leaguers this year.
Yeah, and it's the first one since Sloppy whatever his name was.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up.
Way back, like 100 years ago.
I had to write that down. Yep. Yeah, it's 101 years. That's only Kopech's is only the second ever immaculate inning for a White Sox pitcher. Yes, you have to go back to Sloppy Thurston in 1923.
There you go.
Sloppy Thurston.
You had to love the nicknames back in the day. They were phenomenal.
Did they have porn back then? Because that would have been a great porn name for somebody back
Thurston.
Yeah, I could see him dropping his knickers and going at it.
Burying his face. Never mind.
Well, his name was Sloppy.
Oh.
Or did that mean he always had to wait for the first guy to get done? Oh, well, I'm sorry. Wow. It's the White Sox. Sorry, bud. This year they deserve all the
ridicule they get. So.
And I know how much you love this, switching topics away from our miserable teams. But you weren't here for this either. The Pirates, for the second time this year already, pull rookie phenom Paul Skeens with a no-hitter going. Now, the first time maybe was marginally acceptable. I believe it was
the sixth?
Second. I think it was only second start.
His second start, and it was like the 5th or 6th inning?
Yeah, it was against the Cubs, of course. Back on May the 17th, he went 6 innings. He went 100 pitches, exactly 100 pitches. This time, we're going back to last Thursday, July the 11th, against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Through 7 innings.
99 pitches through 7. And, of course, they pull him in the 8th inning, reliever, first thing, boom, hit.
I am so sick of this babying pitchers.
And I know he probably right now is okay with it because he can see the money on the horizon, the big contract coming in another couple of years, and look who he's dating. I mean, life is really good right now. Starting the All-Star Game, Mr. Skeens is doing okay. But at some point, I got to believe this shit's going to piss him off, too.
He's got to start advocating for himself. Give me the damn ball. Let me complete a fucking game.
And yes, we know it's the age of analytics where we don't get a ton of complete games, but this guy with the young arm dominating the way he is, I know the Pirates don't want him to get injured because they can't wait to trade him in 2 years.
Yeah.
But, come on. Let him set some history. Let him leave his mark on the game already at this young age. And so, of course, that is our transition into talking about the All-Star Game.
Yep. Well, we've got one more. We have our 300 hitter watch.
Yeah, we got to deal with that too. Yep.
At the break, there are 12. We're still hovering around that dozen. But now, was it Stephen Kwan from the Guardians?
Yeah, remember a couple weeks ago, ESPN had dropped him out.
He had not had enough games played to qualify. Now he does, and he is leading baseball at 352.
Yep. Yeah, by far and away, average-wise, the best hitter out there.
Yeah, by almost 25 points.
Yep. All right, so now we move on to the All-Star Game with Mr. Skeens starting against Corbin Burns of the Orioles. What's interesting about that is that the Pirates and the Orioles had not had starting pitchers in the All-Star Game for decades and decades.
You have to go back to the 70s, don't you?
I think for the Pirates, you go back to the 70s. I think you go right to about 1980. Steve Stone for the Baltimore Orioles. But, of course, who has the longest streak in baseball? The Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs have not had a pitcher start the All-Star Game since 1946.
Oof.
And that, of course, was Ejaculation Jones. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No.
No, he started in the 1899.
God help us all. We're just having fun here. I didn't have my bud last week, so we're trying to play catch up here.
Our teams suck. We have to try and have some fun for baseball.
Yep, so we'll admit it. We did not watch the All-Star Game.
Didn't watch the Home Run Derby.
Nope.
It sucks.
And this year...
It's run its course.
And this year supposedly was extremely underwhelming.
Yeah.
In that, and Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers won. So, again, that was underwhelming. I guess the game was actually pretty good. You had a late 2-run home run from Boston Red Sox outfielder Jarren Duran.
It wasn't even late. I think it was like the 5th, 6th inning.
I thought it was like 7th. I don't know.
But
again, I didn't watch it.
Late. I don't know. Anyway,
it doesn't hold. It does not
cares?
hold the same magic that it used to. It just doesn't.
Yeah, you know why? All the interleague play has ruined the magic of the Midsummer Classic. You got guys facing each other. It's not unique anymore.
Yep, of course, the game was held in Arlington, Texas. First time in quite a while, again, decades, I believe, when the game was hosted at the park of the defending World Series champions. Of course, that would be the Texas Rangers. The American League goes back to their winning ways as they win 5-3, as I mentioned. Jaron Duran, MVP. Going back to what you were saying, though, another comment, just another thing that Rob Manfred has fucked up when it comes to the All-Star Game, and then, as you mentioned, it's lost the novelty because of interleague play. But they, again, even screwed up with the uniforms.
Oh my God, they looked awful.
Everybody, I mean, it was almost unanimous. I think everybody said at least go back to letting the players wear their normal team caps. You know, Dodgers player wears a Dodgers hat.
I want them in their regular uniforms.
You want the whole thing.
I want the whole thing. So you know who's who. You see your team represented.
Yep. I don't think many fans would have a problem with that. I don't.
I mean, if you want to have, I want the uniforms. If you want to have the AL, NL All-Star caps, that's fine. But damn it, let them wear their own uniforms, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
yes, I'm a baseball traditionalist at heart.
And in baseball, of all the All-Star games, if they took them seriously, which of course they don't, hockey may be an exception. I don't know. I don't think it would be. I think baseball is the one exception where you could get away with that and there should be no complaints. Now with basketball, if they're all wearing their normal jerseys, that could get a little confusing because you're dealing with 5-on-5. Who are you supposed to pass to? You got to remember which teams are in your conference, kind of thing.
Hockey, basketball, and I'll even go NFL. NFL, the jersey should be the same. Let them wear their team helmets.
Yes.
Because if you're going downfield with that's different. Baseball, you know who's hitting, who's in the field. There's no There's no room for confusion there.
Yep, exactly. Baseball is the one out of the 4 major All-Star games where they could get away with wearing their normal jerseys for their teams, and it would not cause any problems, issues, or confusion whatsoever. All right, moving on. Let's move on to football. Football, getting closer and closer and closer. In fact, today, July the 17th, training camps open. Well, the Houston Texans reported. And then Friday, the Chicago Bears. Of course, they're getting in a little early because they both play against each other
in the Hall of Fame game.
Yep. And of course, speaking of the Bears, you knew it was going to happen. There was no reason to panic.
All those milquetoast Bears fans who were so worried that Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze hadn't signed their rookie deals yet, getting paranoid coming in. No, they were not going to hold out. They were trying to manipulate and work to their advantage certain language within the contracts, trying to get money up front, any little advantage they could get, because basically the NFL has said this draft pick is worth X amount, this one X amount.
It's all slotted.
It's all slotted. Where the details are in is guaranteed money, guaranteed little bits here and there.
Yeah, and
no trades, free agent, or what was it?
Well, both of these deals are fully guaranteed.
Yeah, they are.
Caleb Williams gets 4 years, $39.4 million. I think he gets $25 million up front as a signing bonus. And then Rome gets 4 years, $22.7 million. So there you go. And again, there was no need for fear-mongering or panic.
No, it was going
like
to
Dave said, it was just about little idiosyncrasies in the language.
Yeah, it's the language bits and pieces. And let's face it, the Bears are notorious throughout the history of trying to screw players over and little things in the contracts.
Yep. And of course, that will not change. Doesn't matter if you change GMs, as long as you got the same owners, they're going to be sending down the same orders, the same marching orders to whoever the GM
let's throw
is.
something in there where if they do something that voids certain guarantees.
Bill Belichick, even though he did not get a head coaching gig, looks like he is going to be a pretty busy camper this fall. Not only will he be appearing weekly on the Manning Cast, of course the alternate Monday Night Football broadcast on ESPN2, he will also be appearing weekly on the Pat McAfee Show. And
Replacing dipshit Rogers?
I wonder. That's not official, but that's not a bad speculation. Let's put it that way.
It's an improvement.
And then, of course, Bill Belichick, the latest, he will be joining Inside the NFL. So he will be all over the place. And yes, kids, he can be a very intriguing commentator. He's just not the guy you want in front of a microphone right after a game.
As a head coach, his job is to give you nothing. And he excelled at that. You get him commentating or talking outside of his team, he's actually pretty damn engaging.
Yep. So we'll all be watching the former New England Patriot coach and player, of course. We'll be watching Bill Belichick on these three weekly NFL outlets, and then, of course, Tom Brady in the booth for Fox.
Let's see if he can carry Greg Olson's jockstrap in the booth.
Yep. That will be interesting to see. So we'll all be watching both of them. Now, I would lay my money because you've kind of got a little bit of a feel for Belichick because he has made appearances in the past on shows like this.
Yeah.
I think right out of the gates, Belichick's going to be the better of the two. We'll see if, like Troy Aikman, Tom Brady can grow into his role quickly.
Yeah, he has to do a very quick catch-up job.
Then a couple of wide receivers creating waves in a bad way, riptides, currents that'll pull you under and drown you.
Gee, that's perfect talking about San Francisco with the Bay there and the currents. Brandon Ayuk has not gotten a contract extension yet from the Niners, is demanding a trade.
Yeah, and this has been going on for a while. But
they've been leading him on.
Yeah, because they are paying everybody else, but they are not paying Ayuk.
Who is probably their most consistent receiver?
Well, he stays healthy. Deebo
That's
Samuel
the thing.
cannot stay healthy.
That's what I mean. He's consistent. He's always there.
Yep.
You can rely on him.
Yes. And you know how I feel about George Kittle. I think George Kittle is the most overrated tight end in the league. He will disappear for weeks at a time. And then he'll show up and have a huge game. And then he'll disappear. Samuel's always hurt.
You can't rely on him being
McCaffrey got through 1 year.
And he got a big deal. And
now we'll see.
Let's see if the China doll disappears again.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle the trade demand from Brandon Ayuk. Then, Minnesota, of course, in transition when it comes to the quarterback, as Kirk Cousins is now with Atlanta. So they have Sam Darnold, and then, of course, the high draft pick, J.J. McCarthy, I believe, who will need some time to develop. So I would think
Has
Darnold's
McCarthy
going to
signed
play.
Yet? As of yesterday, he had.
He was one of the last holdouts. I remember they were talking about him in the same breath as they were talking about Caleb and Rome.
Yeah,
but now
because
those
Minnesota had their quarterback and receiver rookies had not signed. The Bears had Odunze and Williams had not signed, and I believe it was the Bengals had a player that had not signed. The last 5.
So we will see what happens. Like I think Darnold will probably start at least the first 2 months of the season. Would be my guess.
So.
Would be my guess. And plus that will probably help to keep Justin Jefferson happy because at least he's got a a veteran throwing him the ball right out of the gate instead of a rookie. I know he got paid. He's got his deal.
But he still wants to produce.
Yes, he is a wide receiver, and we know. I notice I said
Well,
wide receiver because I was combining receiver and diva. Notice how I did that?
Yes.
Receiver.
There are some who just have the attitude and it doesn't matter to them if they get the ball or not. Others, they want the ball and want to excel week in and week out. And I think Jefferson is one who wants the ball and wants to produce week in and week out. He just doesn't want to be paid. He wants to contribute.
Yep. So again, they're in a transition. But now, one of the things that outside of this quarterback quandary that was making the Vikings very strong was their receiving core. Now, I am not sure if TJ Hawkinson will be ready right at the beginning, at the start of the season, coming off a massive injury. But on the other side, while Justin Jefferson was out for a period of time last year, Jordan Addison stepped up and started to play very, very well. But now, once again, the indestructible young football player thinks he can get away with anything. Well, Jordan Addison arrested this past week on suspicion of DUI.
Idiot.
So, is this just a blip on the radar? Is this going to turn into a problem down the road?
We'll have to wait and see.
He better be careful because he's not getting paid for another couple of years. If he wants a contract similar to what Justin Jefferson got, he better keep his nose clean.
Yep, and Jefferson has done a very good job in that regard.
Yep. And he's been in a lot of commercials. He is a marketable player. And most teams would love to have that.
Yeah.
Because that usually means the player's not getting in trouble. What do they call it? A Q rating? The player's got a really good Q rating, Dave.
Yeah.
All right. I know we don't talk about this. It is the bane of our existence here on Sports Frenzy. Soccer. But real quick, couple of things in soccer that...
The Copa disaster in Miami?
Yes.
Good Lord.
Now you got people wondering if we can handle the World Cup.
There's no freaking way with these idiot fans coming from other countries. If you don't have a ticket, you're not getting in the damn stadium. But no, you had how many of these fans down in Miami trying to fight with security, climbing fences, trying to climb through ductwork, trying to get in to watch the game. And then the idiocy of the losing team's fans and the president of their soccer club and his kid getting in a fight with security guards after the game. Why do you want this headache and nightmare from these morons? You know, I have a solution for you. If fans or whoever from these teams act in such a heinous way, they're banned. The team is banned from participating in the next big tournament. If it happens again, they're banned for a year from any tournament. And if it continues, they're done. No more. Don't invite them back. Put a stop to the stupidity.
Yeah, and again, if you guys have listened to any of our past episodes, you probably could tell we hate soccer. We hate the game itself because it's boring, it's slow.
And you have asshole fans around the world who think it's the greatest thing in the world.
And this kind of stuff happens. Now, of course, the details on this was the 2024 Copa America final down in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. The game was delayed 75 plus minutes because of this security travesty Dave was mentioning. The Southwest Gate was breached by thousands of fans. Now, the one thing I will say that I did actually do a little research on this. as people are crying about the World Cup. How are we going to be able to handle the World Cup if we can't handle Copa America? Well, you're dealing with two different organizations, is the thing. The organization that runs the World Cup has already invested far much more time and money and resources into preparation for the World Cup than this joke of an organization that runs Copa America. So you don't worry about how we can handle the World Cup when we get that.
You still have the same moron fan
The
base.
fans, yes, but hopefully in this case with the World Cup, they'll be more prepared, better security, more security.
I mean, we've had soccer hooligans.
Cattle prods. Oh, sorry. Did I say
my
that out
God,
loud?
how many? You look in Europe. How many stadiums have to have fences separating the opposing fans because of all the fights and everything that break out? How many times have you seen the fans storm the field and fights break out? Fires set within the stands and on the field. I mean, it's a joke, but it's not, because this stuff happens. These people are idiots.
And as you mentioned, lots of illegal immigrants caught as part of the group, the horde, breaking through. Yep. And then, of course, here on our national front when it comes to soccer, because of the failure of the U.S. men's national team.
Because let's face it, it wasn't a surprise.
Yep. In this whole Copa thing, head coach Greg Berhalter has been canned. He has been fired. So the U.S. men's national team now looking for a new coach. Now, this is how ignorant I am on soccer.
Don't ask me, I know nothing.
The one thing I couldn't figure out is, this is the Summer Olympics, right, coming up?
Yeah,
Don't we have soccer in the Olympics or no?
I have no clue.
Because they're talking about they don't have to rush to find a replacement for Berhalter until they get close to preparations for the World Cup. So there's no soccer in the Olympics?
I don't know. I'm not paying
I'm
attention
just
to the
putting it out
Olympics
there.
at all.
I will plead for once, one of the few times in my life, I will plead ignorance. I have no idea, but I thought it was very odd that there's no panic, no rush with the Summer Olympics coming up. I don't know if it's two different organizations, but I would think the U.S. men's national team, if we played soccer in the Olympics, that would be the team that would be playing in the Olympics. I don't know.
Got me.
Yeah, we can go over 30 on this now. All right, so we will go now from soccer to tennis. We'll go over the pond to Wimbledon for a minute.
Yeah, let's play on the grass, shall we?
Yep, now of course, next week will be a little bit more fun. I would say that Dave and I are a little bit more invested in golf than we are in tennis, but we will also be over the pond.
Yep, for the British Open.
Yes. Oh, we're not allowed to call it that anymore.
Oh,
remember?
sorry, it's the Open.
The Open Championship. There it is, the horn of disgrace. We will always call it the British Open here. I don't understand what the problem is. Last week was the Scottish Open, so why isn't this the British Open?
Semantics from morons. Why do we have to run everything?
I don't know. It's pressure, Dave. Carrying the weight of the sports world on your shoulders, it's just pressure.
Heavy
But
is the
pressure-
head that wears the crown.
Pressure is a privilege, Dave. Real quick, in Wimbledon, the young phenom who is supposed to be, and it looks like he's starting to fulfill this promise, the young phenom who is supposed to take over for Nadal and Federer and Djokovic is Carlos Alcaraz. He won his second straight Wimbledon, his fourth Grand Slam already.
Good for him. We were wondering, is there going to be anybody that's going to step up?
Yeah, and here's the interesting
And
thing.
at least it's not the moron from Australia.
And the interesting thing is, really, I mean, Nadal's pretty much done. Federer is done. Nadal is pretty much done. Djokovic might have a year left in him.
He's got another. He's probably got another couple of wins in him.
But once Alcaraz is going to have smooth sailing, because it does not look like there are a lot of other male players up to his level.
No, he is. He's going to be king shit for a while.
Yeah. Whereas on the women's side, without Serena Williams, it's kind of a mishmash. You know, of course, my favorite, Naomi Osaka. Let's take a mental health break again. It's just too much stress for me. And she had initially had the promise, like a Carlos Alcaraz, where she was starting to win majors left and right, and then all of a sudden
she flaked out.
She turned into a snowflake. Yep. So at Wimbledon, Barbora Krejcikova wins her first Wimbledon, and believe it or not, it's her second Grand Slam. So she's already got a couple.
All right.
You know what they say? One's a fluke. Two, you're actually damn good.
You're pretty good.
Yep. And of course, we've got what left? The U.S. Open, I believe, is left on the slate.
Yep.
Basketball. Of course, right now, the NBA is almost like the NFL, where it seems like there is no off week. The Knicks still trying to position themselves for a run at the Boston Celtics in the upcoming season, as their star player Jalen Brunson takes less money. Now bear with us here, kids, because you think the economics of the NFL and Major League Baseball are crazy.
The NBA's economics, they're indecipherable. You have one apron, two aprons, and then you have all this other goofy shit that's involved.
Yep. So Jalen Brunson took less money, technically. He signed a 4-year, $156.5 million extension. Now, if he'd waited 1 year, he could have signed an extension for $113 million more. But the fact, here's what Dave said about the aprons and the chaos of the financials with the NBA. That's where this comes into play. But because he signed this extension when he did, betting on himself, hoping he doesn't have a catastrophic injury, he will be up in the 2027 offseason for an extension worth $80 million a year.
Yeah.
4-year extension, roughly $320 million.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
And where's that money coming from? Well, they're in the final stages of getting this all fixed and approved and sorted out. The new media rights deal for the NBA,
which is screwing over all the local and regional markets.
$76 billion over 11 years. It will start with the 2025-2026 season. Now, the interesting news that I read today, initially, when this deal was put in place, you had ESPN and ABC staying on as the primary platform. They were going to be paying $2.6 billion a year, up from 1.4.
Where are they getting the money to do that?
Then coming on, after decades of being out of the picture with the NBA, NBC jumps back in for $2.5 billion a year. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, of course, they wanted to go to streaming, and Amazon Prime Video were going to jump in for $1.8 billion a year. But the previous deal had a clause in it that said when this deal is up for renewal, the previous partners, of course, ESPN, ABC already locked in, paying a lot more, as I just mentioned. We've heard Charles Barkley talking about it, how he's upset and mad, as TNT, otherwise known as Warner Brothers Discovery, were talking about how they were going to sit this out.
Yep.
The numbers were getting too cuckoo, nutsy, crazy for them. And of course, they're just right now penny pinching. They don't care about
anything,
any kind of decent content on any of their platforms, their channels. But, news breaks today. TNT will match the $1.8 billion Amazon Prime deal and knock them out.
Wow, so TNT is going to stay in play.
That is what I heard today from a very reliable source. Now, ESPN, of course, doesn't want to get involved in this, so they're probably not going to report on this.
Well, no,
you have to find another source that doesn't have anything vested in this. And this was the rumor that I'd heard a couple days ago, was that if Warner Brothers Discovery was going to stay in this, they were going to go, obviously, match the low bid, which was Amazon and Prime Video. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next week. As they get into finalizing this, they need to get approval from the Board of Governors.
Yeah.
Injury news. Off-season workouts. Kyrie Irving breaks his hand. Had to have surgery. No timetable set yet for his return. Oh, couldn't happen to a bigger douchebag. Couldn't happen to a bigger douchebag. Although I will say this, it's amazing how when he went on to Dallas, how his attitude seemed to change almost 180 degrees from what kind of an asshole he was with the Nets, with the Celtics.
Who knows?
And then,
the guy's a psycho.
And then awful news for Nuggets first-round pick Deron Holmes tears his Achilles already. Now, initially he was picked number 22 by the Suns, and then with all the draft night trades and all that crap, he ended up with the Nuggets, but he is done most likely for the year.
Yeah, you're not going to see him until, fall 2025.
Yeah, usually you're talking a year for an Achilles. Unless you're Aaron Rodgers, of course, and you're taking ayahuasca and going to see mystic healers and getting led into the pyramids for ancient sacrifices.
And a darkness retreat.
Yes, and you're drinking goat's blood and smearing it on your torn Achilles. All right, Dave, you will be happy with this news as we have one little final basketball tidbit. Now, I will give you the news first. Of course, bad news for Angel Reese. Her double-double streak ended at 15 games.
That was a hell of a run.
Well, obviously a WNBA record.
Yep.
Rookie or otherwise.
Yeah.
And the first half of the WNBA season ends tonight on July 17th as we're taping. I'm done. I think I'm done.
You're out, Jerry?
Yeah, I think I've had enough. I'll tell you why at the end of the episode.
Oh, there we go. You know, we forgot to foreshadow the end of the episode while we were talking about Major League Baseball and the Home Run Derby.
Yes.
So that's going to screech its way into the final episode.
Yeah, I figured you would be, as you always are, on top of things and know that would be something we would say for Mr. Foreman. And the follow-up after the initial event.
Yes.
All right. I am not a lawyer. I only play one on this podcast, but...
And he did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yes, I am not Captain Obvious. But another big ruling coming down in the NCAA. U.S. Appeals Court says that college... This has got to be the most vague ruling I've ever heard when it comes to a major ruling involving any type of sport. College athletes may indeed qualify as employees, but the U.S. Appeals Court is sending it back down, the case back down, to a lower court for fact-finding because they think somebody needs to come up with a test to see if the efforts of each and every college athlete are primarily benefiting the schools, or are they just doing it for fun? And I am not kidding you. That is basically, it's paraphrasing, but it's pretty damn close to what they said. They did say, are they doing it just for fun, or are they doing it to primarily benefit the school?
Guess what? I hate to say it, but the major college sports are being done to primarily benefit the school.
Yeah, and what is our answer to this always been? Our answer is,
if you are going to have the college players get paid, they lose their scholarships, they have to pay for their own education.
thank you. And I know that puts us in the vast minority on this, but I don't care. That's the right thing to do because it's got.
Because if they're considered employees and you're paying them, they don't get their tuition anymore. If they're not happy with that, screw them.
Yeah, then they can say they're playing it for fun and not get paid.
Yep.
You can't have it both ways.
If you're playing for fun, you get your scholarship.
Because supposedly if you're playing for fun, logically, and I know logic doesn't apply with the NCAA, but logically that would mean you're in school to get a degree in medicine, medical, being an attorney, being an engineer, being something productive in society. Because I don't want these athletes to get paid and get a full ride when we need engineers and we need, well, maybe we don't need lawyers, but we need doctors. We don't need any
more damn lawyers.
But we need doctors. Yes, we do need teachers, even though I have my issues with teachers.
Gee, how about we just say the hell with college because we do need people in the trades. We need welders, we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need mechanics.
The world needs ditch diggers too. And I'm sure we will revisit this topic later on.
This has been the bane of our existence and a bone of contention. We fucking told you so 30 years ago when we were doing this on cable access that we were going to get to this point.
Yep. And now it has come to fruition. And it is even more messed up and screwed up than we probably even thought it was going to get 30 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to NASCAR, shall we? We are almost to the, God help us, Olympics break. Which I cannot stand. I can't.
It's a travesty. I'm sorry.
It's a travesty because why would NASCAR continue to re-up with NBC? Number one, their coverage is shit. And then NBC's going to tell them, you're a second-class citizen to us when the Olympics start. We don't want you anywhere near our networks because we've got the Olympics. I would, if I was NASCAR, I'd tell them, go screw off. We'll go to Fox, see if they want the whole goddamn season.
You're not going to cover during the Olympics? Fine. We're going to go back to Fox for these 2 weeks.
So, last weekend was Pocono. This weekend is Indianapolis. Going back to the Oval, the Brickyard 400, and then no racing. No racing for 2 weeks. Uh-oh. We've gotten a double dose of the Horn of Disgrace. That's not a good sign.
No, it's not. That's NBC for you. They suck.
So the recap for Pocono. Usually I just like to call it the Pocono 400, but this year it was the Great American Getaway 400. I almost did the Horn of Disgrace there for that stupid-ass name.
The Poconos used to be a vacation getaway spot. That was the place to go. I know that's where my folks went on their honeymoon back in the day.
And I heard, I'll tell you what, before we even get into the race, I have heard nightmare stories. For some reason this year, the traffic in and out of Pocono Raceway was a nightmare. We're talking like
Michigan
level, or what was it years ago? Was it Kentucky?
Oh yeah.
When they had races at Kentucky, how bad that was. Yeah, they said there were people stuck on the highway when the race started outside.
Trying to get in?
Yes.
Oh my God. That's bad.
And then, of course, the administration at the raceway claimed it was because there had been weather issues a few hours earlier.
Oh, bull crap.
People called them out on that and called bullshit because it was just as bad getting out as it was getting in, and there were no weather issues leaving the track when the race was done.
Yeah, you never heard about traffic issues at Pocono in the past.
No, so I don't know if they've got somebody new running the show there that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Gee, it must be the same people who run the traffic down at Ruoff.
Yeah, check out the weekend edition, by the way. Nice segue. Check out the weekend edition. We'll be talking about our first concert of the year
Party Gras
at the Ruoff Music Center in Noblesville, Indiana. Yes, and again, as Dave mentioned, they don't know how to manage traffic either. But, all right, with Pocono, pole went to Ty Gibbs. Ryan Blaney wins the race. Our pick, Denny Hamlin.
second.
Close but no cigar. And I don't think it wasn't one of those situations where he needed 2 or 3 more laps.
No, the car just wasn't there in that final stage.
And a lot of people are saying it was because of how they decided to pit.
That
in terms of how much
to do-
gas they put in on the last stop versus how much they put in the stop
That had
before.
nothing to do with it. The car just wasn't handling the way it needed to. The car in the third stage didn't handle the way it did in the second stage.
When
That's
he
all
won,
there was.
won the second stage, yeah.
That's all there was to it. They did not make the adjustments that they needed to.
Yep. And you could say that about Martin Truex Jr. winning the first stage,
Right.
and then that car went away. Whatever they did to that.
Yeah.
So, the defending, reigning Cup Series champion starting to look like the defending and reigning World Series, Cup Series champion. As he's now got 2 wins in the last 5 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
So, we will see how he performs at Indianapolis, and then what happens when everybody comes back from the break with Richmond and
Tire choices.
a bizarre tire situation.
God, this is just stupidity on a grand scale.
They are going to have what they call option tires that the teams can use at Richmond for the August 11th Cup race.
And now what they did at Martinsville?
They said this is the first time.
I thought we had no, it was North Wilkesboro.
Yes, you're right. It was the All-Star race.
The
It was
All-Star
not-
race,
This
they
is the
had
first
tire
time.
options. This is the first points-paying race
Yes.
with tire options.
There you go. Yeah, they did do this at Wilkesboro.
And they screwed it up.
So teams will get 6 sets of what they call prime tires, and then 2 sets of option tires for the race. They will get 1 set of option tires to mess around with during practice, but qualifying, no. Everybody's using the prime tires for qualifying. And the option tires, kids, are basically rain tires, is what they are.
No, they've got the soft.
Now, I read that the compound in these option tires is the equivalent of rain tires.
Oh, good Lord.
That's what I read.
I thought we were having rain tires if it rains, the soft compound, and then the regular compound.
That would make more sense, but I read that these option tires have the same compound as rain tires.
So they're basically useless.
Yeah, and you cannot mix and match.
No, of course not.
No.
Because why would you let them do that?
No, you either use all 4 tires are prime or all 4 tires are option tires. And then the third of the 4th Stewart-Haas Racing drivers, as of course Stewart-Haas Racing shutting down after this season. the third of the four who are on that team right now. Noah Gragson has signed a multi-year deal with Front Row Motorsports. So that right now that leaves Ryan Preece out in the cold, where he deserves to be and belongs. Yes. I say it over and over again. I don't understand what they saw in him to bring him in as a fourth driver.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other three I figured would find new homes.
Yeah. So, do we have a little rivalry brewing with Kyle Busch and Corey LaJoie?
Yeah. Now, Corey LaJoie did not get penalized or fined for his actions, but he did not like what Kyle Busch did
earlier in the race.
And so he basically took him out.
Yep. Did not give him any quarter racing through there and spun him out and caused a decent little melee near the end of the race.
Yep, and Kyle Busch, when they went to interview him,
pretty much was silent.
Yeah, a lot of people said that is psychopathic. Kyle Busch is what you saw there.
Yeah, that's the Kyle who's going to seek revenge down the line.
Yeah, when he starts just talking about thanking his sponsors with a very straight face, very monotone voice.
He's seething.
Yeah.
And retribution will be served.
Yeah, that's Patrick Bateman from American Psycho is what that is.
Yeah.
He's going with the way his season is going. And Richard Childress Racing right now, I have read, is in a world of hurt because Kyle Busch wants out. And they are getting to the point where they're looking at turning on Austin Dillon and booting him out.
He needs to be gone. He sucks.
But of course, with nepotism the way it is, he will move up into the front office and have some kind of role there. I read they're bringing Ty Dillon back.
Ty?
Going to run another car. Childress is going to run another car. Ty hasn't run in 8 years? Something like that.
Oh, my God.
Ty Dillon's going to run another car for Childress at Indianapolis. That tells you how desperate Richard Childress Racing is getting.
Yeah, because Austin Dillon cannot drive a fucking car.
No, absolutely not.
You know, I believe his other grandfather, Dillon, was the big short track car builder based close locally, who could set a car up like nobody's business for short tracks, but couldn't race for shit.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
All right, so as I mentioned, the final race in the Cup Series before we take the wonderful, awesome Olympics break. And if you can't tell, my voice is dripping with sarcasm. We'll be talking a lot of baseball for the next couple weeks, kids. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting your wall-to-wall Olympic coverage here.
We're not giving Olympics any coverage unless something monumental.
If Team USA loses in basketball, we'll cover that.
Yeah.
6 of our 8 panelists have their picks in for race 22 this Sunday, July the 21st. Of course, it is the Brickyard 400 back on the oval.
Back the way it should be, damn it.
Back at Indianapolis. So, Dave, you are sharing your pick with Nick. You guys picked the same driver?
Yep, we are going with Mr. Tyler Reddick. He's been running pretty well of late and is not quite gotten to the top. He's due. I'm liking him for this one.
Yep. He wasn't an option for me. I've maxed out on him. Now I want to interject something here. I like to think when it comes to running all of our competitions, I am a benevolent dictator in that we've bitched and pissed and moaned about this all year long. You and I put together an improved Frenzy Cup competition to try to get everybody into this thing, right?
Yep, we made it as easy as it could fucking possibly be.
Yet Doug is still finding new and exciting ways to pick the exact opposite driver of who he should. We just talked about the miserable, awful, no good, very bad year
For Kyle Busch.
So who does Doug take?
Kyle Busch. This is what you get from Doug.
And he is not going to make the playoffs, even with the easier system we set up. And then I got to listen to Bill, I guarantee it. Well, can't we penalize him 50? No, he should not even have the remotest, slimmest chance of winning the title after having this awful of a regular season. That's the whole goddamn point.
Exactly. You can't get in. Too bad.
Bill would have put the Carolina Panthers in the NFL playoffs last year. Well, can't they start off, behind 20-0?
No.
I'm telling you, it's going to happen. When we do the NFL, our fantasy football NFL draft, coming up in about a month.
And you know what we're going to tell them? Go fly a fucking kite.
Yep, as we are drinking copious amounts of adult beverages and finding our own ways to fuck up our fantasy football draft. All right, Sam is taking Ty Gibbs. At some point,
he's going to break through.
He is gonna. Yes, I can see why maybe Sam's going with him here. At some point, he is going to have to break through and win a race. And I would think it's going to be this year. And then Bill took the driver that I was thinking about going with, William Byron, for the Big Blue W.
Thought about that.
But I think he's back. I think he's 100%. He's got a slim lead over Kyle Larson for the points championship for the regular season. I think he wants to keep building on that, which means he will not short pit and lose out on points when it comes to stages. I am taking Chase Elliott at the Brickyard.
Not a bad pick.
So there you go, kids. Aaron and Jen still have about an hour to go to get their picks in.
See, when you said 6 of 8, I thought it was going to be Jen and Nick who had not had them in.
Well, yeah, usually Nick is the tardy one. But no, he actually got his pick in on time.
Wow.
Aaron, it's not late yet.
No.
And I'm sure he'll get it in before the 10 o'clock deadline. But running a little bit later than he would normally. He would usually have his pick in by late afternoon.
Yep. That's all right.
He's very consistent with that.
And it may have come in while we're taping this.
Oh, and wouldn't you know, right when we're getting ready to move on from NASCAR, I checked my phone, buzzing by my side. Mrs. C did get her pick in here just a few minutes ago. Jen is taking Brad Keselowski.
All right, there we go.
We're still waiting on Aaron. He still has a little bit of time left to get his pick in. Just not like him. Usually he is dependable, so a little worried.
Little bit.
But everybody has a bad day. And we'll talk a lot about those people in just a few minutes.
Yes. But first, we have to pay homage to those sports personalities who have left us.
Yeah, I was about ready to say icons, but sometimes we're just acknowledging those fallen warriors who could coach or play, do the things that we have never gotten the chance to do, even though we are technically running all the leagues.
Or should be, anyway.
Yes, as we joke about. I'll start off with one that personally hits home for me because next to the vaunted Bears defense of the mid-1980s, this man ran the second best defense, in my opinion. Maybe the Steel Curtain, but the Tampa 2 that Tampa Bay ran with George Lynch and Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks was an unbelievable, awesome defense. And of course, Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers are my second team after the Bears. The great Monty Kiffin. 13 years as the Tampa Bay defensive coordinator. Passes away, of course, his son, Lane.
Yep.
Was notorious for jumping from port to port and team to team.
In college football ranks. May have finally settled at home in Mississippi.
Yep, and Monty was helping him out as an assistant.
Yep, so thoughts and prayers to the Kiffin family and all their friends.
Yeah, great.
He's one of those legends in coaching.
Yeah, he is in the Hall of Fame, although kind of like Judas Priest with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he had to get like a special award, a contributor or whatever they want to call him.
Yeah. Stuff that shouldn't have to happen.
Yep. So, heavy heart for Monty Kiffin, and I will give Lane, I don't know if I want to say I'm giving him credit for this, but so many times when somebody leaves us, somebody passes away, whether it's a family member or a close friend, people will put stuff on social media that goes over the top or just doesn't have the right feel or tone to it. I give kudos to Lane Kiffin, posting on social media pictures of him and his dad when Lane was really young, and just said "my hero," and that was just perfect.
That's
just
awesome.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. So we could all learn something from the humility of Lane Kiffin, and God knows I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah. Sometimes you get surprised.
Yep. Then we've got another father, very prominent athletic father.
Yes, former NBA player, WNBA coach, Joe Jellybean Bryant. Kobe Bryant's father has just passed away. Thoughts and prayers to the Bryant family and their friends.
Yep. And of course, I can't imagine what he went through. Biggest tragedy in life is losing a son or a daughter. As a parent, you're supposed to go first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, thoughts and prayers, obviously, to the Bryant family.
And then, too young, Jacoby Jones, former receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, won a Super Bowl with them in his rookie year. Really damn good receiver for them during his career. Passes away. Is what, 41?
40 years old. 40 years old, yeah. He scored 2 TDs for Baltimore in Super Bowl 47. Of course, they won that one. I have not seen any more details
haven't heard anything
as to why he passed away that young.
But thoughts and prayers to his family and friends.
Yep. So unfortunately, after 3 pretty significant moments of silence here this week, we have to do what, Dave?
We have to pivot. We have to pivot and find out who's screwing up their life. Who is in the running for this week's Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week?
And of course, it was no fun without you last week because I left it up to the listening audience, and then I kind of nudged them with my suggestion. But it's much more fun when you're here to make the final decision.
It's more fun with the bantering.
And we're back to about our normal. This is about our normal number of Red Foreman dumbass. We've got 6 this week. And we already have kind of alluded to and hinted at a couple of them. Let's start off with the obvious one that we were thinking about as we talked about the Home Run Derby.
Oh, say, can you see?
And that was probably better.
Oh my God.
Country music artist, believe it or not, 4-time Grammy nominee, Ingrid Andress, putting out what could have been one of the worst renditions of the national anthem in history.
And that's pretty bad. Because you have Roseanne Barr, you've got Fergie.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing. You named the two that I was going to mention because I was hearing a lot of people putting polls out there about which of those three.
Which is the worst.
Yeah.
Not good. And as Mrs. C had commented, she looked homeless. She was not well put together for this event. She looked out of it. And lo and behold, she says, yeah, I was drunk, and I'm now going into rehab to take care of my issues.
See, to me, this is a double-dip dumbass.
Yes, absolutely.
Because going out there and putting on that shit show and then falling back on the typical celebrity excuse, yes, I've got a drinking problem and I need to go to rehab.
Uh-huh, right.
So, yeah, I just made that up. Double-dip dumbass. How about that? I like it. A rare commodity here.
That's right. Well, not that rare.
No, we could almost call this one a double-dip dumbass. Now, it would carry over through the last few weeks. United Airlines.
There we go again.
Of course, we talked about them a few weeks ago on the weekend edition when they refused to let a woman, a mother, board a plane because supposedly she used the wrong pronoun on a trans flight attendant. Now the shit gets real, though.
Now.
Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis, handcuffed, escorted off a United flight.
After it landed, because his son asked the flight attendant during drink service for a cup of ice. The attendant didn't hear him and continued to walk by, and Davis reached around, tapped him on the arm to ask for a glass of ice for his son, and the flight attendant said, "Don't hit me!" and ran away like a little baby.
Yep, like a little bitch. And now, of course, United has come out and said, we have apologized profusely to Terrell Davis, and the flight attendant has been removed.
Yeah, and you have heard nothing from the flight attendant who should be apologizing for being a snowflake wussbag. And I have to say, kudos to the law enforcement officers for the way they conducted themselves professionally and apologized to Terrell.
Yeah, because they heard the story and they could tell his demeanor was not that of a troublemaker.
Yeah, they apologized
and they were basically
for going
saying,
through that. And,
yeah.
and kudos to him for being calm and not overreacting.
Yeah.
And just going with it and not blowing up and making things worse, which he could have at that time.
Yes, absolutely. And in this day and
Handled
age,
it with class.
in this day and age, where we've got all these celebrity athletes doing podcasts where they curse and swear, I mean, nothing wrong with that. But since we do it all the time,
Sometimes it has to be done.
But these are multi-millionaires who are supposed to, be a little bit more mature and business savvy. And Terrell Davis is an example of one of the few now that's left when it comes to former athletes that actually still knows how to compose himself, how to handle himself in even the worst situations.
Yes, so I will double down on Terrell Davis as my badass of the week for the way he handled himself in this situation.
There you go. Awesome. Not so awesome. The number 2 pick in the NBA draft, Alex Sarr, picked by the Washington Wizards. Now, we've talked a little bit about the Summer League, and we've talked about how Bronny James is already embarrassing himself in the Summer League.
Yep, he's pretty much already relegated to the G League and is a long-term development prospect. A wasted second-round pick.
But now we're talking about the number 2 overall pick, which should be a solid player.
Right, somebody expected to contribute right away. One of the top 2 French players taken.
Yes, well, Alex Sarr, in his most recent Summer League game, 0 for 15 from the floor.
Ouch.
People already speculating, saying, he might not be ready.
You think?
Now, I believe he did have like 9 rebounds, but still,
But
your
still,
number 2 pick,
come on.
you can get a guy off the street to get 9 rebounds and not score a point.
Yeah.
All right, now I alluded to the fact that I could be, most likely be done with the WNBA. And it was a nice little fling while it lasted, you know. But watching the Indiana Fever the other night play the Minnesota Lynx, I realized that it doesn't matter if you get a little momentary or a couple months bump in excitement from a Caitlin Clark or from an Angel Reese, who I still think has a shitty-ass attitude, but can't deny the fact she's a baller. She can play. Well, then I was exposed the other night to not only the Lynx head coach, she is also the head coach for the women's Olympic team. Her name is Cheryl Rave. Let me give you, she's another double-dip dumbass, by the way. She did a couple things that I think are worthy of dumbass hypocrisy. Now let me say this first. If I had to give you a description of her, right off the bat, after seeing how she reacts and how she speaks, how she composes herself, she is a female Greg Popovich.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
She's coaching on the sidelines, and I know they have this casual dress code. You can wear a sweatsuit or whatever, and that's acceptable. She comes out with, I believe she was wearing jeans and a sport jacket. Okay. The shirt underneath the sport jacket, keep in mind this is a white middle-aged lesbian we're talking about here, okay? Yes, I verified she is a lesbian, as it seems like half the goddamn league is. But that's not what I'm pointing at here. She's wearing a t-shirt that says, "Black Girls Rock." And again, this is a white, middle-aged lesbian wearing this shirt. And by the way, half her team was white.
Wow.
I don't understand. Wow. She's like Popovich. She likes to push buttons. It's obvious when I saw that. She's just trying to get a rise out of people. The lesbians and the black women are all in solidarity, I guess. I don't know.
I got nothing.
But then on top of that, she goes into a profane rant when asked at a press conference. I believe it was before the game. I don't think it was after. I think it was before the game. Somebody asked her about Caitlin Clark. And of course the controversy, Caitlin Clark's not on the Olympic team. She's the head coach of the Olympic team. I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm pretty damn close. She says, I don't give a shit. No, I don't give 2 shits about Caitlin Clark. Again, a female Greg Popovich. Okay? And the reporter who asked the question wasn't from some rinky-dink website or podcast. It was ESPN's primary WNBA reporter. Okay? Who she said that to.
Not cool.
So
Come on.
Cheryl Reeves is a double-dip dumbass, and I actually have an addendum to my double-dip WNBA dumbass, and that, of course, is the racist Dawn Staley. Dawn Staley, of course, asked about who do you think should be the WNBA Rookie of the Year, and, gee, shocking, the racist said, it's not even close, it's Angel Reese. I don't like her. I hate Dawn Staley. I think she's a phony. I think she's a hypocrite. She claims to be an ultra-religious woman. My
Yeah,
ass.
bullshit.
She sure as hell doesn't act like one. She is a racist. I am sorry. All the evidence is out there. She's a racist. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with taking Angel Reese over Caitlin Clark for WNBA Rookie of the Year. That's not the point. The point is when there's a history
Of somebody.
of speaking and acting a certain way, and this just reinforces it. Sorry. All right, the last two we've got. My favorite target. ESPN and their coverage of the ESPYs. Now, first up, we're going to kind of follow up with this negativity from Cheryl Reeve when it comes to Caitlin Clark. And again, race baiting. I just think it's race baiting.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
The host of the ESPYs the other night was one Serena Williams. I don't think there's a doubt, greatest female tennis player of all time. But here's the thing. Even though you've quit your day job, you shouldn't have quit your day job because you're not funny as an MC. Serena Williams decided to make quote-unquote jokes about Harrison Butker. Of course, we know about his comments. Serena Williams basically said, "Hey, Harrison, we don't need your help."
Just stop.
And then it got worse when she decided to talk about Caitlin Clark. She says, and I'm paraphrasing again, but pretty damn close, comparing her to Larry Bird because white people love you. So have no fear, America. Once Stephen Colbert dies in a tragic plane crash, retires, you've got a perfect fill-in. Serena Williams more than happy to make insulting, racist jokes that nobody thinks are funny and everybody thinks are heinous.
And cringeworthy.
Oh, but it got worse for the ESPYs. It got much, much worse for our final dumbass nominee of the week. Leave it to ESPN to take a wonderful moment and make it cringeworthy. Steve Gleason. I don't know if you remember Steve Gleason. Used to play safety for the New Orleans Saints. And then he was diagnosed with ALS.
Yeah.
So now he is in a wheelchair. Has to have assistance with the computer in order to speak. And he was given the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs. And of course, he is giving a very powerful speech about the power of perseverance and the people who helped him. Now, bear with me here. He gets to a point where he says, quote, "Without the support of family and friends, I would have been dead years ago." The director, whoever's running ESPN and running the coverage of the ESPYs, right when Steve Gleason says, "I would have been dead years ago," cuts to the audience and Damar Hamlin.
Oh, come on! That is absolutely classless.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. That was
That
pretty
is
sick.
bad.
Yep. Yeah, it's not even close. Literally right when he says, "I would have been dead years ago," they cut to Damar Hamlin in the audience.
Oof.
And right there. It's not like a group shot. It's Damar Hamlin.
Are you sure it wasn't his body double?
Sorry. We got to make light of this situation, kids.
That's just...
That's why this is the dumbass of the week. Competition, Dave.
Ooh.
All right, so your 6 potential dumbasses of the week. Washington Wizards number 2 pick Alex Sarr. United Airlines for their treatment of Terrell Davis. Ingrid Andress and her wonderful rendition of the national anthem and her subsequent decision to go to rehab. Serena Williams for her off-color jokes. ESPN and their coverage of the ESPYs for showing Damar Hamlin right after the line, "I would have been dead years ago." Or Cheryl Reeve and her Black Girls Rock t-shirt and her "I don't give two shits about Caitlin Clark" interview.
Ingrid Andress.
I don't think it's even close.
It's not even close. That is just so... Oh.
And it's again, not just the awful, terrible, miserable performance, but then to come out with the lame ass,
"I was drunk. I'm going to rehab. I need help."
yeah, I think she's definitely in the running for Dumbass of the Year.
Yep.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, on the weekend edition...
Can we double dip with this one?
I mean, technically you could, right?
You could, but we're not going to do
that's
that
okay.
because we are better than that.
And that's okay, because we have, even though we have 4 dumbasses contenders lined up for the weekend edition, I think we might have the out-and-out easy pick for Dumbass of the Year on the weekend edition. But we'll also be talking about Party Gras 2.0 concert review this week. And we will also be talking about the latest episode of The Boys.
And we have your long-awaited book review, Cleat.
The great James Lee Burke. And then, of course, our review of Jason Statham in The Beekeeper. So all that good stuff coming up this Saturday morning on the weekend edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0.
Too.
Yeah, you got to catch up on a couple things, don't you?
Axel F, so.
Yep. Still behind on that 90s show, but...
That's all right.
Yep, we'll definitely get Dave's take on Beverly Hills Cop Axel F as well. Hope you guys have a great end of the week. But we're only going to be gone for a couple days.
That's right. Join us for your Saturday morning hangover cure.
And if for some strange and bizarre and stupid reason you don't want to join us on Saturday, we'll be back here in 7 days for the Sports Edition. Sports Frenzy 2.0, your favorite politically incorrect podcast. He's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.